So now that I've got my 4 rule types, let's go ahead and create our actual rules. I'm going to go to rules. And once again, now I'm working as the normal user, taking advantage of all the work that has been done by the admin user to create the rule types. So I'm going to go ahead and create my first rule. And the name of this rule is going to be tank car weight dropped below threshold. The rule type is going to be tank car unloaded. And I can build the rule using these drop downs. So when any tank car weight is lighter than, and let's say 15,000 pounds, then the event that should be generated is tank car unloaded. There's the severity and priority. The closed by, we're going to add in a little bit once we create the closing rule, which we haven't done yet. And the action that needs to be done, I'm going to add it, and it is going to be send an email. Send email to Akash Sharma. It's just a name for this action. I've typed it in before. Send email to Akash. So I'll pick that. You can just type in any name you want to assign to this action. The to address, if you click in here, it'll let you search through the user list, and you can type in like a last name. In my case, my last name is Sharma, and this knows how to search the user list and find the user whose last name is Sharma and finds a corresponding email address. So that's very useful. The subject, that's going to be the subject for my email. Tank car weight dropped below threshold. Sure, sounds good enough. And then your tank car is, for example. Okay. Let me go ahead and create that rule. Now let me go ahead and create the closing rule that closes this rule. So I'm going to add tank car weight back above threshold. That's what I typed in before. The rule type is going to be tank car loaded. When any tank car weight is heavier or equal to, and I'm going to go ahead and say 15,000 again, but I don't have to have the same threshold value. I could actually say heavier or equal to some larger number. So that way, the first rule fires when the tank car's weight drops below 15,000, but maybe we don't want to close the rule unless the tank car has been filled, not just back up to 15,000, maybe, but maybe even more. That's up to us. We could say, hey, when we fill it back up, we intend to fill it to an even larger amount. And if not, then this rule has not been cleared. But that's not what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to say if it goes back above 15,000, the rule is cleared or closed. Okay, and there are no events that are going to be generated. This rule will close the first rule. So I'm going to go ahead and create it. Go back to the first rule and edit it and say that the first rule gets closed by the second rule. And the closed state is going to be tank car full. Edit. Great. So I've got my original rule. I've got my closing rule. While we're here, let's go ahead and create the area rule and closing rule as well. So I'm going to add my area rule is going to be tank car approaching. And this time I'm going to make it very specific to the site, Austin HQ. And I'll explain why in just a second. So tank car entered geofence. So when any tank car enters, and I'll be very specific to Austin headquarters, then I want this event to be fired, or this event to be generated, tank car entered geofence. And I'm going to want an action to be taken, which is send an email, the name of my action. Sure, that same name is fine. Sends it to me. Subject, tank car approaching Austin and getting close to Austin or something. Create. Now, why did I make this rule very specific to one site? It's because we're going to also have the closing rule for when the tank car leaves the site. And at any given time, an asset is probably outside of many areas. So the last thing we want is for all the rules for an asset being outside of an area firing at the same time. We really want it to be specific to a particular area, because otherwise you're going to have a ton of rules fire at the same time. An asset is going to be outside of many areas at any given time. So let me go ahead and create a closing rule. Tank car left Austin HQ. And the rule type is going to be tank car left geofence. When any tank car leaves Austin headquarters, create. Then let me go back to my first area rule, edit it, and say that it's going to be closed by tank car left Austin HQ. And the close date is going to be tank car outside geofence. Edit. And now I have all 4 rules. And what I can do next is to simulate changes in the attributes values, and that includes location. And we'll see these rules actually firing and emails being sent. That is next.